Comcast Channels 6 and 22. Channel 6 is your channel. If you have an idea for a program, want to host your own talk show, or submit a film, we're here to get your content on television. On Channel 22, we bring you live and replay coverage of government meetings and other town updates. A third channel, Blue Hawk Media, is operated by SAU 16 and can be found on Channel 8, with all your school sports, events, and meetings. You can watch Exeter TV online at exeternh.tv, Apple TV, and on Roku. Find us on social media for extra content. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell to get notified about live streams and new content. Tune in to our platforms every other Friday to watch the Exeter Biweekly Report with recaps of recent events, updates from town departments, and messages from nonprofits in your area. If you head to our website, exeternh.tv, we invite you to sign up to our newsletter to receive monthly updates about new content, upcoming meetings, and more. We'd like to thank you for taking the time to watch Exeter TV and hope that you tune in to our other content as well.
Thank you. Yeah, that's nice. I do like it though. All right, so first thing we'll do is go around to instructions. Roll call. So Mark Layton in Exeter.
Chris Weeks here.
Rob Corson here.
Julie Gilman's Associate Select Board Rep.
Dan Chartrand. I'll be an associate select board rep as well.
Dave Sharples.
Town planner.
All right, so then we have the great task to assign the minutes taker.
I'll do it.
You have an option
I'll let you
now.
off the hook, Mark.
I know.
You can focus on running the meeting.
What point on
I
that?
cannot read my writing much like
I'm
that.
still not getting email.
You know? Okay, yeah. I totally forgot to put you on this
no
last
worries.
one, so
No worries.
we'll go forward.
And I have just a town select board email, so
Okay,
whatever the formula is,
got it.
that's what it is.
Okay, first thing we have is the review and approval of the last meeting minutes.
It's hard to review and approve and just got them today.
I like that. They look pretty darn good to me. Chris, did you get a chance to look at them?
No, but I will look at them right now.
Yeah,
right.
yes, it's,
So I don't want to hold things up. But just give me a moment.
So what we'll go through the agenda. So we'll talk about the CIP warrant articles. I did print out what I think was being discussed. The DPW maintenance list, but we're going to postpone that, I think, because we don't have that information in front of us. We're going to talk about this discussion of Parks and Rec buildings, 32 Court, 10 Hampton Road. There's a big CIP warrant article, proposed warrant article for that. And then new business case, that's it. So
Grab something to get a glass of water.
sounds good. So we noticed I did test negative for COVID, so I have a cold, just so I so make sure so people won't get nervous.
as literally half the people
Thought you
you're
were taking
listening to, either on buses or planes or whatever else train is.
Yeah, right. So, but just felt in my throat. How you doing, Chris?
I'm almost there.
Okay.
That looks good to me, so we can open it up for any discussion and then vote on accepting them, I guess.
Okay.
The meeting minutes from last meeting.
Yeah, I'm good. No comments from me.
Any discussion on meeting minutes, Rob?
As you said, yeah.
He's like, I wrote the damn things.
Yeah.
And I was going
Yeah,
to
I don't have any motion to accept the minutes as written.
Second?
All in favor? Well,
No, go ahead. No, no, all in favor? Yes. Aye. So, sorry, no, help me. Third time, I think, to try to remember how to do this.
Yeah.
So, all right, so they're approved?
Yes,
As written.
approved as
So, okay.
no changes.
All right, so CIP warrant articles, so you guys probably didn't get a chance to see this. I sent this out. I grabbed the packet from the planning board meeting back in August. So, and Dave, I think so then the minutes from your meeting were pretty good because it documented those discussions for those. So.
It did. But just before we go there, because
Okay.
that was the CIP that was adopted by the planning board.
Right.
Then, there's multiple stages in the process after that. And then it goes to the town manager who prepares his town manager budget.
Yeah.
And when he first put his budget together, he put all the CIP items that were in there.
Okay.
And then, that came out and he felt that wasn't palatable. It was too high of an increase with some things that the select board did for compensation and the reclassification plan and so forth. And it's like in health insurance, all the other things. It was like, so he pared it down. So what he proposed for CIP was he deferred a lot, deferred several of those that are in there. So, I'll list them all, and then the police.
So sorry, Dave, because I did try to go to the select board meetings, and I tried to find that.
I looked for that too.
And I couldn't see it in the.
Yeah, it's in his,
Oh, the
the
budget
town
is in there.
manager's budget where he talks about deferred CIP, and he has a list of all the projects that he deferred.
Okay.
And then,
At
so,
this stage, it's under BRC, not select board.
yeah,
Okay.
It's with them.
it hasn't gotten there yet. It was
Okay.
part of when he gave his budget to the select board. It was in the documents, but it wasn't really discussed. It, you know, I mean, it's a big
Yeah,
document.
yeah.
You know, it was back with a
Okay.
deferred.
I was looking more for these sheets. I guess he didn't. He just listed them. That's what.
Yeah, so these are I'll tell you exactly what
All right.
is being proposed for 2024 at this point.
Okay.
Is the police station fire substation for $17.5 million. The School Street project, which is a water, sewer, you know, pavement, sidewalks,
Yeah.
you know, kind of neighborhood project for $6.5 million. And that has a 30% forgiveness on sewer. We got that. So there is about 810,000 plus potentially, depending on if design funds are eligible or not. But there's about $810,000 available for that project that's been approved. So not going forward with that. We
But
could,
that comes out of water sewer.
Some of it.
almost
all of it.
well, water, so yeah, it's probably,
Whatever, doesn't it?
the breakdown.
The sidewalk and streets
Yeah,
part of it,
right.
the tax rate, everything else is water and sewer.
Yeah, it's like, it's all broken down here. The drainage and the sidewalks and so forth come out of general fund. Any water and sewer work is out of, is the water and sewer fund. But they have it broken down if I can find it here, Green Street. School Street, right here. So the roadway sidewalk is about 1.8 million in design. So that's about $2 million, and the rest, about 4 million, comes from water and sewer.
Yeah, the bulk of it.
Yeah, the bulk of it.
And the forgiveness comes out of the water and sewer side, not.
Just the sewer. Yeah, the forgiveness is on just the sewer. And then there's and it's not really a facilities, you know, it's not but then a facility, the Webster Pump Station, for $884,000.
Also water and sewer.
Yeah, well, that's strictly
Was that a sewer pump
That's
station?
sewer,
but
yeah.
yeah, it's a pump station, and it was approved, but in today's environment,
Yeah, we need to.
This Webster one's been on the docket for years.
yeah, and it got approved. It got approved.
But then the.
It got approved, then the cost escalated by the time they got it, and they need an additional $884,000, so they're going back for that.
This is you probably know, this, like a huge post-COVID thing is like what you budgeted.
Oh, yeah.
What it costs.
Yeah, then, no, come on.
Yeah. No, the escalation stuff might hit hard. So,
And the surface water treatment plant
just wondering.
is moving forward, but it is in here, I think it's,
FY24, there was like a $2.5 million.
yes,
design.
it's 500,000.
Oh, 500,000.
Well,
And that's-
you're right, it was 2.5, but the town manager is putting forward 500,000 to just get some preliminary design and analysis done.
So that's what will hit FY24 is 500,000.
500,000 for this, that's what they're proposing, that's what he's proposing
That's
on that.
another water and sewer.
Yeah, and then there's the ADA Capital Reserve Fund for 25K. And then Great Bay nitrogen permit. The Great Bay nitrogen, not really facilities, but, and then there's a Water Street planning grant, but that is 100% forgiveness through the water loan fund, so it's not any impact on anything. And then the park improvement fund that we've
Yeah.
seen every year. So that's it for CIP warrant articles that the town manager proposed.
Because of the increase in compensation.
Yeah, when they put together the budget, I mean, he said it a couple times, so I feel free to say it too, because he said it publicly, and when he put together everything that was put in, it was about a 12% increase, over a 12% increase, and he's like, just, that's not palatable, you know?
Yeah.
So he had to cut, you know, down, he cut everything, you know, down to what he thought would be a reasonable number, and he got, I think, down to about 8%, a little bit under, percent increase on the budget.
Yeah, okay.
And about half of that is human capital
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
investment.
Yes, quite a bit. Yeah.
So the fuel island,
With the inflation.
The fuel island has been deferred.
Deferred, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The list I just gave you is all that, so we can talk about any of them, but just to let you know that those have been deferred.
Yeah.
Because we did find that there's a backup, because we're like, what happens?
Yeah.
Well, they do have other options. They can, not ideal, but there's like, I think there's a place in Brentwood, I think the DOT State Garage has one that they can go and get fuel from them in the event that they couldn't. But it's still functioning down there, and hopefully it'll maintain that, but there are backup plan.
Yeah. So when it says, do they have an idea, like, so it's not FY24, but are they hoping that it's FY25, or at this point they're just deferring it and that's a discussion for later?
I thought they were thinking defer it for a year.
Okay.
I mean, that's at least what DPW was indicating.
Yeah, okay, so.
You said there was an alternative location to go and get fuel, right? That was the.
Yeah.
Correct. There were a couple of alternatives that Paul brought up. He's like, because I was like, what do we do if it fails? And he's like, well, we have these alternatives. It'll put more mileage, on vehicles to go out and come back, but.
To be fair, we're in the process, and if there was something that this committee felt strongly should not be deferred, you've got 2 select board members here, and if we agree, we can carry your water, but we've got a big increase that we're seeing.
Yeah.
One of the things while we're on this topic of funding is the local option fee. And I don't know if you remember, but we added, I think it's at this point, $4.75 to each auto registration that goes into a separate local option fee fund. And when we first did it, the language on the warrant article was to primarily fund elderly and disabled transportation. But the RSA that describes this fund describes it as transportation. And so it includes funding for sidewalks, for other bike studies. Multimodal projects. And so what I'm looking at this year is, quite frankly, I don't think Coast needs to be funded as much as we have, because they really don't offer us services.
So what do they offer next year?
Just on demand.
Yeah.
And even then, it's difficult for the people that do use it. In the winter, they don't use it. And they've asked for a 12% increase also.
Coast does. What are we giving them currently?
A lot. But it comes from that separate fund. It's not from the tax base. But I don't know, it's over 10,000.
Well, it comes from people that register their cars.
Right, so maybe I think right now it's at 30,000, but don't quote me.
Okay.
The total fund amount, or?
I think that's a year,
Okay.
per year, but we've been giving Coast about 10 or 15,000 a year.
And this rolls over, so that it builds up a balance.
Yeah, it's on the fund. So I'm going to propose to the select board that we decrease the funding for Coast, and I just have to check to see if that language for the warrant article needs to change, so we can start using those funds for some of these projects instead. I think it's unfortunate, but it's kind of the reality.
I need to think about that.
Yes.
But it's creative. I'll give you that.
So just so I have this right, Julie, so this is all new to me. So the $5, there was an additional $5 charge per auto registration. It goes into a fund. That was for transportation.
Right.
And is that Coast, the bus service?
It's Coast, it's Task, Transportation Assistance, Transportation Alliance for Seacoast Citizens. Task, Rockingham Meals on Wheels Transportation.
Okay.
We used to do Lamprey Healthcare, but we stopped transporting people. I think that's it for right now.
So is there extra money in there to use for other projects, or are you just...
Well, that's the thing, is that the definition of that local option account is for transportation in general. Multimodal, sidewalks, anything that affects getting from here to there. So we've, one thing is to up the other services, because I know Task is an all-volunteer service. The drivers are all volunteers, And Meals on Wheels is, asked for $1 or $2. But I'm sure they could use some more, so that's part of the discussion. But depending on how much we have in there, we might look at some of these projects and see what we have.
Dave, can I ask you just a few more questions on some of the ones that are listed as 2024, but I guess what we deferred, but one was the facilities condition assessment, like exactly sure.
That one got pulled from the CIP before.
Okay.
That one, due to the situation at DPW, trying to find a director, Paul's the interim, they just weren't, they put it out there, but they didn't have time to articulate anything and, put any dollar amounts to it. So they wanted, the goal of that sheet was to take some of the, the improvements, the list of items, and then, start kind of create maybe a potential capital reserve or whatever to a mechanism to start paying for those over time, kind of like a paving, just like the paving budget, kind of like that.
Okay.
So that's what they're going to do, but they just didn't have. So it just wasn't ready.
No, that's good. That's what I thought, but it didn't really say much like that about that in here. So, but okay. So the idea is potentially to have a fund that they don't have to have discrete projects. They'll just have a fund source that they can start picking away at these things instead of going after 100,000 a year or 50,000. They would have a pot of money that they could do at their discretion, use towards that.
That was their thinking on the CIP sheet, but then it didn't go beyond that, so who knows what it's going to come back in what form next year, but that's what they're thinking this year, but it didn't get into the CIP this year.
Right, so I think for us, that might be a good one for us to help them for next year, is to have them help.
We'll do a kind of an evaluation where they are to date, with the FCA, and then ultimately what are the next steps that actually add to that or build the priority ones, priority twos.
Yeah. The next you have the data, now the next thing is how to execute, right? Yeah. So and try to, you don't want to keep the database with these projects, you want to try to knock them off. So hopefully, okay, so that's what that's for, is for them to try to get going on that. Planet Playground renovation deferred, right? Didn't have that on your list.
Yeah.
That's a big one, 600,000.
Yeah, we were hoping to use ARPA money for that.
The dispatch console, public safety, 281,000.
That they are trying, I know maybe you.
I wasn't at the presentation.
Yeah, they were looking for alternative sources for that. We did have some planning board funding for public safety use, the 150,000 that we could use toward that.
Okay.
And they were trying to cobble some things together to get that done without, being an article, warrant article.
Can you remind me, does the dispatch stay over here or does it go to the new building?
It goes to the new building. That's what they're proposing.
Okay. So
And this is just kind of it's like they build it and then it's just put it there and then they can just pick it up and move it over there.
okay, so it can go over to the
It can go over,
Oh, okay,
yes.
that's good.
Yep.
Okay.
Are you getting to the rec yet? That's the one I'm curious to.
I don't know if I printed that one out. That was the new building, the renovation of the new building?
Yeah.
That is not going on the CIP. That has already been, they've identified, they got, I forget how much grants, but most of it in grant money, 800,000-ish, in grant
And
funding.
we threw some matching money.
And then they found money from like the rec revolving fund, a couple other funds, they're listed in here, and it's paid for. It's
Yeah,
covered.
I just wanted to make sure that was ongoing, if you took it as a CIP, because it seemed like a no-brainer,
Yeah.
We talked about it last time, which was on the notes, is to get an update on that, generally what the plan was and kind of plan improvements. And again, our concern was we're making sure from an advisory standpoint that we're not fundamentally doing the same thing we did over here at Court Street. Is that are we advancing the building or advancing the site versus just pouring more money into something that really doesn't.
Yeah.
And I think that
There was a question about the building on Court Street. There's a leak in a garage/storage area, and we we quizzed them pretty hard on it. Like, do we really need to do this, given that you're going to be moving over there? But evidently, it was like an immediate concern. So.
Yeah.
I mean,
Fairly short on here.
happy to have
We're with you on that.
happy to have Greg come in and, the meeting, give an update. They couldn't,
Oh, yeah, no, I
they're
know.
up there. But basically, it's all driven, a lot of it's ADA access to for both floors. So ADA access second floor includes an elevator.
Right.
That's a big part of it. So ADA bathrooms, new HVAC system, and energy efficiency improvements. So that's what it is. Yeah.
So do they have someone that's helping or designing that? Do they have an architect?
They're in that phase right now.
They're in that phase, I believe. I'm not
Okay.
privy to who that is.
So that's kind of what I think we're, just kind of, who's, I guess from a risk management standpoint, having somebody else besides internal people just doing the design and the work and, checking and balances, I think just, it's good for the community. Not that I'm, trying to have people, but I think it's a good thing to have a second.
Yeah, I would like to see what they have planned for that,
Yeah.
for sure.
And again, it goes back to, that would be a good one for making sure that once that gets done, it gets into the facilities conditions assessment as, here's some improvements that were done in, 2024.
Yep.
Here's the, put into service at that time, you get elevators and other things so that,
No, it's already in there. You just put the expected life in, so it's already in the database.
Do you want that report in November, at the November meeting?
This project? I mean, I think it would be good if, for the November meeting, but I think we need to talk about that too. But so if we could have,
Dave,
let's
is
Greg
that
come in.
something that we can get Greg here?
Yeah, I'm asking him right now.
So let's just say,
Before I forget.
so we say that in the next
Sorry to be
meeting.
a step slow.
But I guess we want to talk about what the scope of the project is, right?
Yeah.
Where they are in the process. If they
That'd be
are
great.
hiring somebody, how they're doing that.
I think that would be a great
Yeah.
thing.
And who's overseeing the project is, I think, the question that we want to talk about,
Yeah.
right? Is like, who's managing the process?
Yeah, JSA Design and CSI Engineering is involved. And yes, he can come to a future FAC meeting, so just let me know.
yeah, and if he doesn't want to come to the meeting, he can actually just,
What is it, the second, third?
share a couple, kind of share the documents and share where they are. I mean, that's, I don't think it has to be it could be just a report. You could just send it and say, this is where we are in the process, this is what's going on, and if you've got a diagram or a PDF of something.
Yeah, he's happy to come, because then if you have questions, then I try to answer them, and I don't really know, and I'm guessing.
He's happy to come to it.
He said he's happy to attend, and he said he should have a preliminary design by the next meeting.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I'd love to see that.
What's the date of the November meeting?
What is the,
We got to talk about that. I think it falls on
We're having a Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Oh, it's scheduled for Thanksgiving.
Yeah, no, well, it's-
Thanksgiving?
Before Thanksgiving, yeah. So we got we got to talk about that.
Okay, so
Yeah.
once we know, I'll let him know.
Yeah. Okay. We had that on the agenda to talk tonight too about that. So,
Forgot to take notes.
all right. So CIP. All right. So we know what's being proposed, right, for FY24.
And then as far as sorry, Mark.
No, go ahead.
The parking lot item, is that going to happen too as part of the,
That's not not this year.
oh, it isn't? Okay, so that's deferred then.
Yeah.
Okay. They were going to update the parking lot at the new 10 Hampton Road?
I saw that on the.
Yeah, that was scheduled in the CIP for FY27.
Okay.
So that's still a little bit out. I think before they had it a little closer, but this grant came up and they're doing so much to the building that they kind of pushed this one out.
Yeah.
Said, okay, well, let's get the building squared away and then we can deal with the grounds.
So the new surface water treatment plant, is that replacing the existing building? Is that complete redo? Or is it just the stuff inside?
500,000, probably not.
Well, that's just the design.
That's the
right?
design.
Yeah.
Well, that's not, yeah.
The design-
Part of the design.
I think the design last time was like $3 or $4
It's $2.5 million. The cost for preliminary planning and design, final design, and cost estimates is $2.5 million.
Yeah.
That's what they estimated at. Russ thought that was just too much to put forward right now in this budget. But he didn't want to lose momentum. He wanted something to continue going on, with the design and analysis. I mean, the path that people are discussing at this point is a new surface water treatment plant.
Okay.
Because of the location of where it is now, it's, it's subject to flooding, it's been flooded.
Oh, come on.
And actually, in 2004, I think?
Yep.
I have a design, actually, of a
right.
new one on our property up off of Holland Way that comes, like the Sportsman Club part right there above it toward Holland Way. So we're kind of looking at that area potentially as,
Land's still available.
we own it.
Right.
Yeah, so we own it, so that's the good thing.
So there is I guess that's what I was getting at is what involvement should we have? If it sounds like there is a building that's associated with that. So, I mean, it's something that, do we want as a committee to try to be part of that, or just let it, because it's a water sewer project, that we don't get involved?
No, I think, again, as part of it'd be good just to have a secondary set of eyes as far as, at least, that would be my thought.
Is the existing building in the facilities report? I can't
It was
remember.
on the list.
Yeah, I don't know if they've done the audit.
So we didn't-
Then it's in within your purview.
Well, I mean, it'd actually be just good for them to fundamentally, if now the list really belongs to them, and it should have all their assets on it, all the town assets. So the reality is they've got, now it's, if they've got a new building there, that's going to go onto their tracking documents. So it's kind of like saying these are all, physical plant items.
My take on this is like citizen involvement in this stuff, there can't be too much.
Yeah.
Because that's part of what helps projects build momentum for approval. Is when there's a lot of citizens putting their eyes on it. So
Sure.
if you guys want in, get in. It's good for the project.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to bring it up to this. I mean, I think that we could help as far as the looking at the process and the project, but they also have a very involved water sewer committee too, right? That likes to stay involved in that stuff too. So
I'm sure
just want to do an overlap.
Well, we have a
Never
guy
done.
that does double duty on both.
We do.
committees.
Yeah, Alan, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. So you can.
He's deputized. Alan's deputized.
Yeah.
He's our mole.
Yes, you can be the.
Get him back here.
And just may I add to that, because that was the talk about, because that had been done before, but I think that when also that kind of anything's on the table. It's almost like when we went through the police and fire, and there's multiple options. Like so make sure we cover all our options and not going in with a pre-decision and back into like, oh, we're building a new plan over here. I mean, that's been talk about, we have the room, but I think part of this analysis is going to look at that.
Okay.
And maybe renovation of the existing building is a possibility. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the area.
I think it's
where-
all up in the air.
Yeah, I'd love to see.
Gotta get into it.
Yeah, I'd love to see the facility condition assessment and then the subsequent software.
You need to go see the water treatment plant if you really want to see something.
Well, I'm sure,
Yeah.
sure it needs improvement.
Yeah, you
but,
tackle on that. I mean,
What's the year on that?
raising it.
I don't think it was like 19, yeah, was it?
It's one of our oldest facilities.
Yeah.
Well, we bought it from a private company.
Yeah, there you go.
But no, this is where I'd like
A
to
lot of the
see the
components
database
Yeah.
used,
aren't available
especially with
anymore to
select
fix.
board and administrative.
Yeah, I mean, that's the data that would be in the
To kind of
database
plan out,
would help,
yeah.
to help show, is it feasible to renew
Yeah.
or to replace, should you replace? So,
So I'm sure that would be part of the
1939.
analysis.
yeah.
It's not 100 years old yet.
It's a classic piece of municipal architecture.
Yeah, we'll have to create a museum.
And the first water tower was up on the land that we just sold to the hospital, up on Prospect. The first water tower.
Of the sliver of land.
Oh, and then, Mark, I don't have the agenda in front of me. Is that it for like CIP type items, or
It was just a general review.
did you have anything on the police fire substation?
As far as
Like a line item or anything, or?
Nope.
No.
Nope. I mean, we can add a new business.
Okay, I could bring it up then, or I can bring it up now.
Go for it, yeah.
My only question was, as we get ready to, get into next spring or later this fall, is the architect, I know originally they had touted their ability to do community outreach and stuff ahead of the votes. Are they going to do that again this time? I don't even know what they did last time. I can't say I saw anything from that, but
No, our contract with LBA
Little Valley, yeah.
is closed out.
Oh, okay.
We've closed the contract with them. You know, we had additional funds left over. We had about 21,000 we never used, but that went back because it expired. You know.
Okay.
So it wasn't. You know, it wasn't. What do you call it? When you continue it.
And no change order.
Yeah, the select board does it and
Okay.
makes it good for another year, carries it over, but it wasn't carried over, so we're done with that. Our goal this year has been internal to, we're putting together, we've been talking on a regular basis, a whole group of folks, staff, been talking about getting the word out. We have a trifold and, fact sheets, and Bob did a video. Bob Blacky's been instrumental. He's made a video.
Tours,
The chiefs have been out there, so we felt we could,
Do that again. I mean, refresh.
do it
that, right?
again. Yeah. I mean, they've offered to help. LBA has offered to help. If we need anything, so they're there to help if needed.
Yeah.
The select board also learned a lot during the special town meeting process on the siphon about how to push the message out a little better. Because we were getting some turbulence from the local newspaper.
Sure. Yeah.
So really,
Taking the show on the road
Yeah,
as opposed to
yeah.
having the show available.
Yeah.
and there's been some evolution of Exeter TV in terms of using it as a communication vehicle. So I think it's going to be a little different this year than it was last year.
I mean, I think you have a lot more technology. I mean, the social media with Exeter TV, right? Using Facebook and the other things, I think that helps.
Yeah, and there was a communications committee that worked on putting together best case scenarios for communicating with voters.
That's good.
Yeah, my concern
And
is
we'll use
just
some of that with
driving that outreach to, build back up that momentum ahead of the vote.
Yeah.
I think it's still a package we all support, so
Yeah.
it'd be nice to see that pass.
And we're hoping it won't snow.
And I think any grassroots support, like yourself or others, would be very welcome.
Yes.
Yeah, again, that goes back to what I was saying about the water treatment plant. The more citizen involvement in these projects from any direction, and then that goes out, and it's word of mouth is huge coming out of these
Do you have
committees.
any brochures ready for Halloween?
Put in your trick or treat bag?
A Snickers bar fact sheet.
Show at the town meeting.
Your yard would be littered with those. Kids would just throw them right out the bag.
Hold your fire, hold your fire.
PD and some Skittles.
See the whites in their eyes.
I do think that going away, I think what we talked about last year, our recommendation too, was to have the, fundamentally the story behind phase 2 of it kind of plugged in so that there is for those who really are also looking at the backfill condition, which is we're putting a new building into service. We still have a building which is still the same situation, so we're really fundamentally not really improving the town scenario because we still have a 22,000 square foot building that is from 1978 or 79 that has all of these particular issues. So there's an embedded responsibility to that particular building. And so the messaging to that, what that is and what that next phase should be really thought about as how to communicate that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we are picking up space. That is the one step forward on that building.
And
We're
I
not
think,
trying to cram all of public safety into this 22,000.
No, and I think that definitely was one of the stories where the chief did a really good job of really talking about, the differential between the staffing today, specifically fire department, versus, 1979. And then that quick comparison so people understand that it's, the building hasn't grown since 1979, and it has the percentage of staff has grown by 100%.
In the built-out area of town.
Right. And yes, so and I think those are part of the messaging that needs to go in, so the people recognize that you can't let time stand still and not expect that at some point that we have to.
Yeah, they did that, right? They did interviews and stuff like that. I'm not sure, I can't remember the timing of that before last year's vote, but I think that is important, right?
Yeah.
You want to do it right before the vote or a few weeks before the vote is fresh, but I think it's you got to sell the need or convince people that there is a need so that they'll support it. So,
I agree.
Challenge.
I'd like to, well, I guess too, on phase 2, we don't necessarily have a path forward yet. Whether just to renovate that building or, do partial addition or tear down, build new kind of thing.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, after looking at these CIP items too, the dollar number on that surface water treatment plant is pretty significant. So we're looking at a couple of really large
Well,
projects.
the design alone was $2.5 million, and we figured that the building.
Yeah, I think the number was like 24 or 28 million.
It's 28.4 total.
Well, it was, what, 16 million back in 2004?
Yeah. 4.
Yeah.
And eventually we decided to pursue, groundwater options instead, which was a good move, but
Yeah, but you also have one for groundwater too. That's
yeah.
groundwater. That's for another 5 million, right, or something like that.
Yep.
So it's coming in a couple.
I mean, the long-term plan has always been to multiply our sources of water,
Yeah.
assuming that that's going to be at a premium.
So I like the identification of the phase 2, but also we have to strike that balance against another very large project coming down the pike too.
Right.
So
Yeah.
and then-
Yeah.
I mean, my fear is that if this first phase gets passed, that it's going to put phase 2 in danger. That
Yeah.
people aren't going to support
Right.
both, and I think that I get why they're separated, and I just feel like that people are they're going to give the town one shot. And they say, you just got a public safety, a new building, we're not going to spend 10 million on
And that was our concern before, was that our recommendation was to tie them together.
Yeah.
At least as in concept, so that it doesn't get forgotten, and it doesn't end up, again, with a building that you're gonna just put, 10,000 here, 10,000 there, and 10,000 here, and then it's just literally another.
So be transparent about the fact that there will be
Well,
There
yeah.
needs to be, but there needs to be.
Well, the other thing too is
politically though, you
I
have
know.
to be careful
No,
Yeah.
and I think
because you could submarine phase 1.
right, and that's part of the nuance of it, and of the why, right? And I think the guy goes back to is, you look at the town budget for when it comes to people, right? A good portion of those people are really police and fire. I mean, it is your largest budgetary scenario for.
Those two in public works.
Right. So you look at that and you sit there and say you have an investment in all these people, and the idea would be is that that's an important investment to
Yeah.
really have the
Yeah,
tools.
to me, the way to help make that case would be to have some sort of rough 5 to 10 year
Right.
capital plan,
Yeah.
to say, okay, I know this is going to cost a lot, but we're looking at doing this like in year 3 and then that in year 7, and we
Yeah.
can make it work. Kind of thing.
Yeah,
I mean, they have it. It's just not in a format like that, right? I mean, that's what this is. The CIP has all that stuff. You have your fiscal years, but I think
And you sit there and say, okay, well,
Yeah.
we've got a dip right
Yeah.
here, and so this is where, from a capital standpoint, you start to look at where something makes sense to keep, your capital kind of at a more even pace, so it's like you don't get an 8% or a 10% or.
Yeah,
really
it'd
see
be
it.
interesting if you did that, though, right? Based on what is in the CIP, and you can. I mean, there's some big stuff as we just talked about coming, but in like the DPW, you mentioned the 3 big departments, right? So you have police, fire, DPW. DPW has some huge needs too.
Yeah.
That is so.
The FCA revealed that the DPW was probably hurting the most.
Yeah, so with all the buildings that they have,
Yeah.
right? And then on top of that, you just the water sewer projects that need to happen, the paving projects that need to happen.
And we just addressed the water and sewer stuff in our rate hearing that we just did.
We lowered them.
In a different world, perhaps. No, we did I think the study came through with a recommendation for a low 20%
Jeez.
increase.
They're
And
good.
we held it to 15%, but
So what we're gonna do is
we'll be revisiting.
This now is a 12-ounce cup.
Family size.
Yeah, everybody shares.
I'm actually on a little bit of a tear. It's kind of a miracle that you can flip your tap and clean water comes out.
Oh, yeah, no.
And the rates are actually not that high. And we'll take all your crap too. So, it's like, yes, the rates are going up, and that is a hardship for some folks, but for the vast majority of folks, I think, this is a good deal.
Yeah. Well, it just went up, was it 20% 3 years ago, 2 years ago? It was a big price
And
increase.
that was tied to the wastewater treatment plant.
Is that what it was? More?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
$55 million.
Yeah, right. But I mean, there was a big significant. I think you were also a little behind on the rates. Also, it was. I think
Yeah,
we
we
kept it flat
started
for a while.
stepping them up
Yeah.
Yeah.
gradually. We knew that we had to get from here to here.
Yeah.
And we tried to do that and just kept going up
Yeah.
beyond us. So.
Right.
So my point is that we're on that. We're really trying to match the rate to what the needs are. I think it's a little more of a challenge with the on the property tax side.
Yeah. Is that what you wanted to talk about?
Yep.
That answer your question?
Yeah.
I don't know if I had as question as much as it was just a
Concern?
relay concerns and discuss, which we did, so that's good.
Yeah. If you do go forward, if it gets approved, you would hire LBA back to help with the construction administration, I would think, right? Is that part
We
of the
would
project?
go through the same process that we went through to hire LBA.
Well, they haven't
And we
done,
would-
they haven't
we
done
go on
their
to-
design
They just did
documents.
it.
Yeah, I mean,
Oh, you-
they are free.
Oh, okay, that's
Full
right.
design.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, at that
So-
point, you could
so-
open it up and, maybe interview more firms if you wanted to, but.
No, I had forgotten. I thought they had finished the design, but they have
Yeah,
not. They
no.
just got to a point of
No.
schematic or design.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, I forgot that part. Okay. All right, next we had was the Parks and Rec buildings on the agenda. So we've talked about 10 Hampton Road, 32 Court Street. We had talked last meeting about talking more about that, about what the future is of that building. I don't know if we want to, how we want to do this, what the approach should be, and how this committee can help. But I guess the big question is what is the thought process about the next step for that building, assuming 10 Hampton Road comes.
Yeah, and I'll float back up what we did talk a little bit on previously, which was part of the FCA goal was fundamentally to get a handle on our buildings and then understanding how much you would want to begin to invest in those buildings. And I think the next part of that really was the saying, it's kind of the space use analysis and space use planning to really fundamentally take all the kind of disparate programs that people have. Oh, I need a public space here, and I need a public space there, and I need a public space there. Well, instead of having 3 public spaces that are used at 20%, do you start to group those things together? So it really gives you an idea about, okay, I want to move something over to Court Street. Well, how much money is it going to take you to move, 5 offices to Court Street, renovate the building, do a mechanical system, do all the other stuff, but maintain it? Is that the really highest and best use for some of these properties
Well, we're still waiting for that study that we're having done with the, I can't remember. his name.
Organizer Bill Keegan.
Bill Keegan, yeah, who was going through all the departments. He went through all the departments,
Right,
not just.
yeah,
I mentioned that at the
We were
last
doing the
FAC.
analysis, and that's where it kind of sparked it, which is the idea of looking at kind of your
Interactions.
interaction between different apartments. Now you really get a sit there and say co-location, is it, what's the benefit of certain co-locations, or
So what's the date for that? What's the timeline for that report?
He is coming back Monday, Tuesday to meet. Yeah, apparently he has a draft. We haven't seen it yet. But he's coming back to meet with each of the department heads, I think Monday or Tuesday. And then, just to kind of bounce off what he's thinking about. And then a final report will follow. That's all. I don't know, but it's imminent, I think it was, the October, November timeframe
Yeah.
when he'd have the final report. So I think he's right in that,
But the idea is that the Parks and Rec is going to completely to 10 Hampton Road, right? That's the plan.
That is, yes.
So that in theory,
it's
the building's going to be
already
empty.
Yeah.
It's going to be empty.
Yep.
So what would if you have a report that this organizational study does? So what is the thought about what to do next? Like you have an empty building, and you have a report. I mean, how would that work with the town? Is that internal that you guys are going to put a committee together, or what is that? How does that work?
Since I came back on the board in March, we haven't gotten there, we haven't discussed that.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, would you do assign a working group that would say, let's come up with ideas how to use this building, or?
I think this group for one thing, and then
Yeah.
maybe add some staff or, finance director.
Yeah, it's an interesting it has some historical
Yeah.
nature to it, right?
Frankly, I'll tell you, the only thing that's really substantial is the front
The facade, yeah. The facade facing the street. But that's important, I assume. Yeah,
There's
so,
Boys High School.
yeah. So, yeah, but we haven't really gotten there yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the bandwidth, just, the police station, fire substation, I mean, it's like in 10 Hampton Road, and so
Right.
it was like, get this organizational study, see what that says.
Yeah.
Where do the department, what are their recommendations? So then it kind of give us more of a picture to do the analysis that you're thinking of. But
Well,
we just
yeah.
haven't gotten to that stage to say a framework for how we're gonna go about that.
Which, I mean, I get it. I mean, if you're going to renovate 32 Court, that's going to take time, right? So Parks and Rec's not going to be moving in weeks. It's going to be months before they can get up in there. I'm assuming.
10 Hampton Road.
I'm sorry, yeah. At 10
Oh,
Hampton
yeah,
Road.
yeah.
Right, so
Sometime next year, right?
Yeah.
okay, yeah. So we have a year, but I guess the question that I have in my mind is just how can this committee help that process? I mean, what involvement do you want from us? Is that do you have a working group that it's town employees that are going to come up with this? I mean, I think that I guess that's the overall question that I have. I don't know what you guys have as far as that.
I would agree. I mean, like anything else, what will happen is as soon as it's, like anything else, if there's something that looks like it's going to be vacant or anything else, everyone's going to come up with their own ideas about what the use is. So I think the more you're ahead of it, with some sort of thought process and a group that's either helping you do something or not. And
you have time. You want to have time with this,
Yeah.
right? You don't want to be doing this when the building's empty and you're trying to figure out what to do. You're still paying for the heat and lights
Right.
and all that stuff. So,
Yeah, so what's the highest and best use? I think you put it well.
Yeah.
It's the,
and I think the organizational study is going to be important because if it shows that you need to have more space, you need to have different people together. That's going to be helpful.
Yeah, and we have an example of spending something out in the finance department over
Right.
in the basement of the town hall.
Is that the right spot for them? Should they go over there? Is there better use over there?
I don't know.
Is it more economic to sell the property?
Yeah, I mean,
Do something, take that money and do something else with it.
yeah, so I think those are kind of like
Build.
demo's tough because of the facade, right?
I don't know, you're a town, it's a town entity, do they have to follow the historic district?
Not really.
No.
So, right,
No.
so, I mean, you
On the other
have,
hand,
Yeah. People.
no, right, but that's what should be part of the
those
thought
are the
process.
issues.
Right, but that's part of the thought process, right? So, what would it look like to tear down and build something? Well, you have these things that you have to discuss, so. All right, well, I guess that's an open question that I have, it's just, what's this committee's role? What can we help with the process?
I think it's
Yes.
kind of built
The
off
answer's
this
yes.
committee, yeah.
Yeah, but the answer is yes, in my mind.
Yeah, I mean, I think we'd like to be involved, but
Again, because, I think citizen involvement is always a virtue. Ultimately, if you have to go to the town meeting and a vote, the more citizen involvement, the better, because it builds consensus.
yeah, I mean, I think it's helpful if you get a bunch of people around the table, right, that have different backgrounds to brainstorm
Yeah.
and push people, right? So
Yeah.
if you're the one that really wants to be moved into the space, you're going to be geared towards that. Other than like us, we don't have any ownership of that. Other than we want to make sure it's used right. So you should throw everything on the table. Should be selling it, demo, rebuild, whatever. So renovate, and this goes back to the database. And you have issues over there. Accessibility is an issue, right? So.
And that building is not in the historic district, though. You said that earlier.
Oh yeah, I said that. Yeah.
It's not.
No,
Yeah.
3032 Court is not.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, but it
Yeah, I
has
see that.
historic significance.
No, understood.
Heritage.
Yeah.
We use heritage.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other discussion on that?
I have no thoughts one way or the other on how the building will be used, but it sounds like the report coming from this Bill Keegan fellow, that I think that'll be great help to the town to help figure that out. Beyond that, once it's determined, what options it should be used for, then yeah, I'm happy to part of this committee to help plan for its next phase of its life.
Great. Okay.
Yeah, and I'll talk to, Melissa and Russ,
Yeah.
because I
Yeah.
wouldn't make a decision like that, so I'll talk internally to staff and see,
Yeah, I mean, we're advisory, right? So, I mean, we could help, come up with a structure. I mean, the first step probably is to recommend how we think you should do the process maybe, and then we should be at the table, and then you guys can.
well, that'll take, recommendations.
I mean, that's,
Yeah,
I mean,
I can-
I don't think it's unique that you guys have a property that is potentially going to be empty, right? And so, I mean, how do you fully use it, or should you even use it? So,
I think that's exactly the right frame.
okay. Next on the agenda was new business. So, Rob, you have anything?
Just, when was the traffic study? I don't think I remember when that was going to be done.
Oh, the downtown parking,
Yeah.
traffic and pedestrian flow analysis. Probably, right now, they've done the first public forum. They've done a lot of their data collection. Now they're going to do like run some parking demand models and so forth. And look at we have footage, time-lapse footage of everything. So they're looking into that. Probably they're thinking that we're shooting for the whole process to potentially, if it ends up being a potential warrant article, it's in time for that. So we're looking at the December, January timeframe to figure out a path forward. But their recommendations will probably be more in December.
And are they building into that model? Are they building any kind of percentage of growth or percentage of change into the model? Do you know?
Yeah. I participated as a stakeholder in one of the meetings because of my business.
Yeah.
And I very much got the sense that they're not just looking at right now. They're really good at what they do.
Yeah. No, I think they
And
know.
my sense is that they're going to recommend a model. I mean, this is a little bit of a preview, but I got the sense that we got to put a price on parking in the high demand spots. That's kind of what I took away from my stakeholder input meeting. And I'm totally with that. I think that is exactly what we need to do. So I came out of that meeting very happy. But I was there not as a select board member, but as a stakeholder.
Yeah. No, I think it's the data shows that ultimately, some level of monitoring and managing the parking will actually improve, access to access.
And there's the ways to do that have advanced with technology. It's not going to involve, someone's going around town.
Right? Don't need those anymore.
Yeah.
And we did a little more specific, drill down on the exact question you asked. It wasn't more of we assume 2% growth or whatever. It was more of, I went through it kind of basically parcel by parcel and identified areas where density could be increased, units could be added, kind of gave them an informational stuff. A couple hundred units here, in the study area, I ballparked a number, of units that could be added. Commercial space is probably not a lot.
But you're seeing a lot of commercial space going to residential space. So the reality is that there's a very different, and it's a very different model, and has a different parking structure. It's not to say that you can't share things, but it's one of those things as you begin to manage this over time, what is that management process, and how do you be able to flex it, and I'm actually thinking it's really, it impacts the idea that at some point in time, does the pressure go on for something to go back to the, structured parking and
It was interesting. I thought that they would be more oriented. This is Stantec, okay? And they've done a lot of parking studies. It's one of their specialties. I thought they'd be more oriented towards increasing our parking. He said, actually, we think you have enough parking. You just have imbalance in terms of demand on where people want to park. And by pricing, you're going to push people into spaces that aren't used as much right now. And that was enlightening to me that we don't need to build a lot of parking.
So, but some of those numbers, though, I thought, Dan, were deceiving because he counted.
That's right. You were in the meeting.
Yeah, but he counted some of the privately owned parking spots in that total count. Like he counted the PA parking down on Water Street. I mean, he identified as far as public versus private, but when he's throwing some big numbers around, he was including some of those the catering parking lot that's over here.
Well,
Yeah.
but they were talking about how you
Yeah.
could structure
You could share it. You could
structure sharing deals.
Right.
Yeah, you could talk to the owner and say, during the day, can you open this up to whatever? and stuff
Go
like
look,
that.
go look at the housing over here. I walk by this literally every morning. There's, you look inside that parking area, it's like half full.
And do you remember how much the ZBA
Yeah, well, I remember.
struggled with the parking issue? And they thought it was going to be a cataclysm for parking. It's not.
They're not.
I mean, they definitely, they have more than they need.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And I think that's what was really great for me to hear from Stantec was in that meeting was yeah, you think you need so much more, but actually it's just a matter of managing.
And that's ultimately if you go to Cambridge or in a city and urban environment, that's exactly how it's done. Is it's about managing what is available for both private and public parking to be able to kind of sit there and say, all right, there's an opportunity for the church that's on the corner only here for
Create
3
a
days.
revenue stream.
Right.
Well, that's what they were talking about,
Yeah.
to conclude the private, because I asked the same question, and they're like, well, as you grow and the demand grows, and then that underutilized private space, there'll be, if there's a demand for it, they will supply it, like the marketplace, because you go down in Hampton Beach, every private parking lot, has a sign out, or you go into
Yeah.
Cambridge, like you said, there's private lots and there's public lots.
Sure.
So that, because they want to maximize the use, so if there's a need, like, hey, we can charge for parking here, this private space, they will start to, and that space will become.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think it's a good idea, and I think there's no issue with them having those numbers. I think when he first presented it, he's like, you have this many.
Yeah, he wasn't breaking it apart.
Yeah, at first, and then he dialed down and said, okay, but I think you're right. There should be the use of that, especially if during the day when the demand's high, that the private lots aren't being used as much.
So, and obviously compare that, and balance that with, from a town planning standpoint, so the reality is that sidewalk space, and especially since pandemic, has become much more of a occupiable, usable space for everything, for businesses and stuff like that. So as you look at parking, there's an opportunity to take the ones that maybe that are less used and create more, public space.
Or less safe.
Yes. All of those reasons, right?
Yeah, the ones that the parking
That's all
spaces.
part of it.
Yeah.
We've had a bunch of internal conversations about that and so forth, because it's a parking, traffic, and pedestrian flow.
Exactly, yeah.
So it'll include some of those. They haven't, I don't have
No, I
a
think
final
that's what you want to do.
draft
You wanna-
recommendation.
you wanna group-
Yeah, we're looking at everything. We're looking at this whole area out here, and the bandstand, and the crosswalks, and the different intersections, and how we're taking account for pedestrians, bicyclists, and vehicles.
That's it, but I was only.
It was a good meeting. I was there for the stakeholder meeting. It was like an hour and a half, whatever it was. I thought it was good. You guys and some good input from the business owners and stuff.
I'm thinking of those empty ones over there. We can rent those from the.
Yeah, and the input from the business owners. We were not a monolith on pricing parking.
No, it was good diversity.
There were some
On the
that
side
were
or
very
by the,
hesitant, like they thought we were
Oh,
going
yeah.
to chase the
Yeah.
customers.
Dan, what business do you own?
I own the bookstore.
But actually, what it does is it actually improves it, because what ends up holding is turnover becomes more increased turnover and an opportunity for people to park. And it's just like to keep the flow going, folks. That's the notion.
Well, it seemed like the concern from some of those business owners that was more about their employees and not having to have the employee be charged for parking, right? I think that's a few of those were.
There was that.
Yeah, about if you have parking, you have pay for parking on the street. Where are they going to park? Well, they should park in the lot, and they were concerned that was going to be pay for parking. But I think that was discussed, and maybe not. I don't know. Depends on where you go with that.
Yeah, we don't even have draft recommendations
Yeah.
yet, but I guess we're cognizant of that fact. We're sympathetic. We're just trying to figure out,
And then,
the whole.
and then ultimately, where does the revenue go, right? So where does the revenue go from the parking part of this?
Made from pricing.
Yes. So the reality is like, when Portsmouth put in their first parking garage, they charged 25 cents an hour. So, and
Yeah, that was also
What is it now?
public-private.
So much more now. Was it?
still, when they're tearing down, but that thing paid for itself in a very, very short period of time.
Yeah.
And they were able to, just by even putting a very low cost on it, it helped a lot. But that's the kind of thing you sit there and say, okay, well, that's a funding source for something else to happen.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But
definitely.
wasn't that project a private-public thing?
Yeah, the first one, yeah.
Yeah.
And they even at the private side, charged literally almost nothing to park there, but they, people can.
Yeah.
Yeah, that came up in the stakeholder meeting. Like the flow of those funds, they're broader. As long as it's on the streetscape, they can be applied to a lot of different projects. So improving multimodal, for example.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the first thing is enforcement. Because you have to have people to enforce it, and and so forth, and the hardware that's out there, and the kiosk and so forth to maintain those.
You have little spikes that go underneath the tires as soon as the thing expires.
But then also maintenance and keeping, and then maybe offsetting. We've been talking about maybe offsetting, some work for DPW in the downtown area, because it's kind of difficult for them to clear stuff. And one example I use in Dover is like, they used to plow the streets before the paid parking, and they'd make a snowbank all the way along, so people parked, but then they had to walk in the street to get to a tip down, a place where a break, and because the sidewalk tractor would only do the break in the snowbank where there was a crossing, where there was a ped crossing, so they only had like two, and they were kind of far apart. Well, what that did, the funding for paid parking, they actually have someone that snow blows like every few parking spots. So, when it gets so things like that, for keep the amenity, keep the pedestrian flowing safe, parking safe. So that's kind of a goal of the funding, at least initially.
That's great.
To put it back into the system.
Good stuff.
New business, Chris?
Yeah, I got a few. So what time are we going to?
I don't know.
It's a little after 7:30. I'll go really quick, I guess, just to wrap up here. One item, Weston and Sampson was engaged by DPW. Is that still ongoing, Dave? If you're pushing off all their stuff,
Western Sampson for what?
I thought they were
do water, sewer usually.
I thought they were doing some sort of design-oriented exercise on the campus.
On the garage.
And I didn't know if that was still going forward or not, or where the
DPW stuff? Was it like the campus review?
Yeah, they had some money.
I don't really know. That's
They got some money for it.
Last
Didn't they,
year
like
they
50
did?
or something like that.
Yeah, 50,000.
Yeah, I think it was 50. They got some money for it. So I do not know where that is.
Yeah, that's
Okay, so there is something.
Yeah, it passed. So there's something going on. I don't know where.
Well, we're going to do the study on the land in the back, right?
They did survey.
That was the last thing I
They
did.
did do survey out there.
Well, they did that already.
But I think they were.
I think this was more of a master plan
Right, that's what
exercise. So.
I thought there was something that was still in there, but it had to do with once you added that lot to it and to the total campus.
Yeah, I just didn't know where that was, and
I don't see anything on the CIP.
but like Dave said, I think it passed last year, and then
Yeah, it was previous. It already passed. Now
But they used to have one for the building, right?
So just
they did, but that has. They pulled that sheet and put in just kind of the fuel island for now, and then see
That's
what
not bad.
their work does and come back with something else that they're ready for. They're back.
Okay.
So they're doing
Just
something.
drawing
We'll
board.
just have to put a pin in that, and we can revisit it another time and find out what the status of that is. The last CIP item thing I have is there was something in there for Rains Farm originally, and it probably is deferred. Dave,
We got a report on that.
It's
At our last meeting.
I guess my question is I didn't know the state of the last renovation. I'm assuming it's enclosed at this point, and I'm hoping that additional funds were used maybe for the interior.
There was funding for like two sides, the two that were most weathered, and they're trying to cobble together additional funding, not from taxpayers, to take care of the other two sides. So that's kind of the quick and dirty of where it is.
So there was a CIP for the Rains,
Well, yes, and it was 76,000.
56,200. Well, this one was 56,200. This was out of the planning board. Maybe it did change.
Oh, it wasn't at a select board meeting, it was at the budget recommendation meeting.
No, 76.
Oh, did I look the wrong? Oh, look up top.
76,200. Yeah, 76,200. Oh, they did put project cost up here, 56,200, but the total cost is 76,200. What happened here was they finally got a contract, took forever to get, because this is through LCHIP funding, and you need someone trained to do preservation planning actually in work and knows what they're doing on historic buildings. And it took us forever to find someone. We put out a request for proposal and got 0 responses. And, far and wide, just like we usually do, and usually don't have trouble, but we just couldn't get, and then finally we're like, start calling people. And Kristen was great. She kept at it. She found someone that could do it. And he's a small outfit, but he does this kind of work. So by the time that happened, the escalation of costs, what it was supposed to cost, didn't cost that anymore. And we had most of the materials. We bought like all the clapboards. It was going to be all enclosed, but then it fell short, basically. So we have most of the materials to finish all 4 sides of the clapboards, but we only have 2 sides of funding. So this kind of got us clapboards, a couple of things, and fire alarm detection, a stairway to basement was the remaining items that were originally planned, but the cost escalated, so we've put those off. We went after a Moose Plate grant and got it for $20,000. We just heard the other day. So that 76 now is 56 on the town, but that has been deferred. But in my budget subcommittee meeting, the budget subcommittee, and they brought it up at the BRC, that they said if we get this Moose Plate funding, we're going to we're going to have the conversation of putting this in because we're paying 70 cents or so on the dollar. Why not do it now? And so
that may hit the warrant.
So
that may come back. There's going to be a discussion about it.
Yeah, we're going to wait and see what the budget recommendation committee comes up with.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, my concern is just making sure it's enclosed so it doesn't degrade any further.
Yep.
Now, the building trades for buildings like that are aging, and we need to connect to folks with students.
My last item is 2 weeks ago, I went to a cross-committee meeting at the library.
All right, yeah.
We were there. So that was
This was the
different boards and
all boards
committees.
meeting.
Yeah,
All boards
different
meeting.
boards and committees. I'm trying to think of what we covered. It was mainly informational about
How to run a meeting.
How to run meetings.
How to interact in meetings.
Yeah.
Talk to each other outside of meetings, unless you're saying happy birthday.
And then there was a meeting last week which I missed. It was
That
on
was
Chapter
the
91
91A.
reporting requirements, I
Yeah,
think.
right to know.
But there should be a video for that because I think they recorded the one we went to.
Okay.
So we should try to get the link to the video and watch the Chapter 91 because I think they had somebody from the state.
Yeah, the New
Presenting on
Hampshire
that.
Municipal Association.
So I know we're all experts at
Steve Buckley.
recording and
Sure.
submitting our notes and everything. Yeah, we could all probably stand to go through that.
Okay.
A
If you can watch the
refresher is
video
always
on
good.
what's that?
A refresher is always good.
Yeah, and if it's recorded and it's on like something like YouTube, you can play it back at 1.5 times and get through it in much quicker.
Go through the commercials.
But I think they're going to have those multi-committee and board meetings every 6 months. Is that
Yeah,
right?
we're going to do it more often.
Okay. And so if you have any ideas on what to cover at those, it seems to me the natural next step for the next one would be to have the boards start talking about what they're doing and
And that
get
was
some
the
feedback
initial,
from.
that was the initial impetus for these years
Yeah.
ago. But then we just needed to kind of get it more coordinated as far as how the committees operate, as opposed to
Yeah.
how we interact and that comes.
Yeah, no, I thought that was all very good, and yeah, maybe the next one you can start to have different boards and committees talk about what they're doing and start generating that crosstalk amongst people. Oh, and I did have one more item I should add on there too. So I know Bob Kelly was interested in speaking to a subgroup, a non-quorum group of this committee, just to go over CIP items. His comment for the last few years, which is a good one, is BRC is making their CIP recommendations. We're commenting on some of ours. We want to establish more crosstalk going into it, so we have feedback from each other's groups before we finalize our CIP recommendations going into the final select board approval of those. So I will set something up with Bob, and we'll try to get with him.
Nice. Very good.
In the next week or two. So if you have any thoughts on the CIP items, I think we discussed it pros, cons, whatever, we can discuss those as Bob, and we can discuss at the next meeting, what we talked about.
Yeah, I think the BRC takes the CIP for real in an evening meeting in November, so.
Yeah,
Okay.
So that's kind of, if you
Yeah, we
want
wanted
to have
to-
some input, that would be the time.
yeah, we wanted to talk to him before that, so that we
Yeah,
give
it
him our
might be
opinions.
like just a few weeks away.
Yeah, I'll try to find
Sooner would
something
be
for this
better than
week.
later.
Yeah, agreed.
I have one more thing for new business, is that we had talked about the town hall at the last meeting, and the work is still going on by the architect who's doing the facilities condition assessment. So she was coming back with one more proposal. And again, not looking at how to best operate the stage, but to get the life safety issues taken care of, and the conditioning, and so not looking at, well, looking at how the building is used, but more about how to make it safe so that we can use it, because that's been a holdup. The railings across the balcony are in, but so we talked about having a tour. I had to cancel it for tonight because we didn't have anybody to take us through. So I wanted to schedule one.
I can find my way through a building just fine.
One of the problems we have is that the people that would give us a tour would prefer it to be in the daytime.
Okay.
I work from home a few days a week, so I can fit something in.
What are you targeting, Julie? What's a good time? What good dates?
I think they're coming back at the end of November.
So will this tour be with the architect or with?
Oh, we can figure that out, yeah, but it
Okay.
will at least be with the facilities and assistant town manager.
So you want to look at the week of the 27th of November?
But the week after Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Should we try to combine it with the next meeting or no?
Sure.
Well,
The meeting was
we
supposed
want
to
to
be.
do it during the day, I guess.
Well, because I was just saying, the meeting was supposed to be Thanksgiving Eve, which.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
So
Pretty much to do.
we're gonna have to move that, and it's either earlier, the week before or the week after.
Thanks.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I'm open to that, the week of the 27th. I mean, it's, you want to
Yeah,
find
if
a
it's the
time.
week after Thanksgiving, yeah, I could figure something out. I'm usually not in town like Tuesdays and Wednesdays, so I could do Monday or Thursday or Friday.
Okay.
did you say Monday, Thursday, Friday?
Yeah.
You can do?
Yeah, I can do.
Okay, so
Do you want to try for
27th,
Yeah,
30th,
27th.
1st.
What day is
27th,
that?
Monday.
Yeah.
27th or the Friday the 1st were best for me to be
Yeah.
able to do a tour during the day, and then if we can roll right into a meeting. I don't
Yeah,
know.
Friday the 1st, I mean, Mondays are
Killers.
crappy days.
Yeah.
Oh, for you? Okay.
So
So,
Friday the 1st.
Yeah.
number 1.
Friday the 1st afternoon would be better for me. I got a couple standing meetings in the morning.
Do you want to get back to us, Julia, about that, and we can?
Well, usually we have Bob Glacki has been giving the tours. I've been on like 4 of them with different groups, and Melissa Roy, the assistant town manager. And Bob tends to lean everything towards filming and and making that use. But he knows he's the steward of the building right now, so he knows it pretty well. But we'll see who we can get. Jeff Beck has never been on a tour when I've been there, because he's doing something, fixing something
yeah.
somewhere else.
Yeah.
Fixing things.
Yes.
So can we target December 1st in the afternoon? So
Yeah, anytime afternoon I should be
That's-
available. I could do it at noon or anytime beyond.
same for
So
you.
let's, before 4:30, you want to say 2?
Yep, 2 would be
Works for
fine.
me.
Okay.
You want to just confirm and get back to us? That works.
Would you want to couple that with the meeting or no?
Yeah.
We
I
can
mean,
figure out the meeting.
I can. I mean, we do a tour for a half hour, an hour, and then go into the meeting.
Yeah, and that could that be the meeting for November and December?
That's what we're saying.
Yeah. So that's a
Yeah,
good idea.
because otherwise we're gonna meet some at point that week.
Yeah, and I don't think we have
Yeah.
anything that pressing, so, I mean, it'd be good,
Right.
once we talk to Bob, to come back and we can talk a little more.
Yeah, my assumption is that the big item for this, that conversation will be the public safety.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, there really is.
Andy, you want Greg there? Well, I thought Greg was gonna come for 10 Hampton Road.
yeah, well.
No, I'm saying for the discussion with Bob and the BRC, I think.
Oh, okay.
I think the reality is there's really not much else that's on the list. I mean,
I mean, his focus will also, he's a big water sewer guy, so he'll talk a lot. I mean, it's
yeah.
water
So
departments, so.
you know, that's what I think will be the big conversation is the support of that or not support of it, you know, from the BRC standpoint. I don't know if where they came down on it last year. I know there was a lot of talk about trying to reduce the.
He might come down and say, yeah, is there any way you could, this project could be reduced, you know,
Yeah.
in cost. And the only way you lose cost is to lose program.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I remember originally when they first kicked this off, he was, the money we wanted for this study got reduced, right?
Yeah.
Went from 100 to 50 or something like that. And that was the big thing for them.
Right.
The BRC was that. All right, so we're going to target December 1st. Yeah, 2 p.m., 2 items. We'll do the tour of the town hall. Maybe meet the architect that's doing the historic study.
Yeah, that's right.
And then we'll have Greg come in and talk about the 10 Hampton Road project. So those are the 2 topics. Next meeting.
Did I ever forward you guys the
Perfect.
historical survey of the?
Yes.
You did, yeah. I have that stuff. I haven't looked through it much, but I have it.
A lot of fun stuff in there.
How long will the tour be? Half hour, an hour? Or?
As long as you want it to be about half an hour.
Yeah, it's not a huge building.
No, there's a lot of steps. A lot of stairs. You can get up into the cupola.
I mean, I guess depending on who we're touring with and what knowledge they have, we might want to drill down into that a little bit, but
Can we get into the finance department too?
Yep.
Just a walk through to see the spaces and stuff.
Up in the
Okay.
chamber
Yeah.
and the cells.
Any more new business for you guys? So, all right.
anything for you?
Nope, I'm good.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second, all
All
in
in
favor?
favor? There you go.
Thank you.
7:49. Adjourned 7:49.
Exeter TV. Exeter TV is the town's public and government access channels, available on Comcast channels 6 and 22. Channel 6 is your channel. If you have an idea for a program, want to host your own talk show, or submit a film, we're here to get your content on television. On Channel 22, we bring you live and replay coverage of government meetings and other town updates. A third channel, Blue Hawk Media, is operated by SAU 16 and can be found on Channel 8, with all your school sports, events, and meetings. You can watch Exeter TV online at exeternh.tv, Apple TV, and on Roku. Find us on social media for extra content. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell to get notified about live streams and new content. Tune in to our platforms every other Friday to watch the Exeter Biweekly Report with recaps of recent events, updates from town departments, and messages from nonprofits in your area. If you head to our website, exeternh.tv, we invite you to sign up to our newsletter to receive monthly updates about new content, upcoming meetings, and more. We'd like to thank you for taking the time to watch Exeter TV and hope that you tune in to our other content as well.